Hey everybody, Matt with Jamison's Tractor here. Today I'm going to make a video hoping to help answer the question, how long can a tractor last, or how long can my tractor last? It's a question that I get fairly regularly from different people. It's also something that I see people just generally asking about across the internet, YouTube, things like that. And it's not an easy question to answer because there's a lot of things that can go into how long a tractor can last for. And that's some of what I guess I'm going to cover today, is to try to paint the picture of what goes into a tractor having longevity and how you can make sure that you do the right things to keep your tractor in its best shape possible and to have it last as long as possible. So I did bring two tractors out on the back of my property where it is shaded. Hopefully the lighting is good enough, but it is scorching hot in the sun, so this is where we're filming today. I brought over here on my right hand side, your left, 2038R. This is a 2022 year model, and I brought a 3039R. This is a 2021 year model. I guess we're going to end up comparing these two tractors just a little bit in this video, although the purpose of the video is really not to compare these tractors. It's really just to talk about tractor longevity, and having two machines to compare will help us understand some of the things that play into it. So I guess let's dive in. I wanted to say one of the things that sparked this video for me, I saw on a dealer-only website that I have a subscription to, dealers can post all across the country. They can post machines that they'd like to trade or get rid of, send to another dealer as an alternative for them sending something to auction maybe. You know, so sometimes they'll be working on a trade-in, and maybe it's a Kubota dealer that's working on trading in on a John Deere, and they really don't know as much about the machine as they'd like to, and they just prefer to move it. This website is a facilitator for things like that. So maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, I was browsing this website, and I came across two tractors on this website that shocked me. I have never seen this many hours on a tractor before, much less two of them. And the tractors that had those hours were not what I would have expected them to be. So I was like really flabbergasted about this. I saved the pictures of the tractors and of the hour meters in the cab so that I had proof. And I'm not going to put them in this video because I don't own the rights to those pictures, and I don't want this video to get taken down. But I do have them, and if you email me directly, I'm happy to send them to you. But what this was, I ran across two very similar tractors, both John Deere 4066R cab machines. One was a 2015 or 2016, one was a 2019. The 2015 or 16 had 19,000 hours on it, and the 2019 had 16,000 hours on it. And I guess number one, I think previously the most hours I had ever observed on any tractor was around 12,000. And I want to say that it was a 100-horse Kubota tractor. And so to move from 12 to 16 and 19, I was just shocked. Now, I live in Middle Tennessee, and you know, we don't have big commercial operations around where I am. I guess when you move out, you know, from the city, there are some commercial operations, but they're not to the degree that you would find in some place like maybe Kansas or the Midwest, when you really get out to where, you know, big time farming is. And so maybe there are more tractors just like those that are out there that have, you know, close to 20,000 hours on them. I just have not seen it. So if you observe that on a regular basis, please put that in the comments. I would love to know more about that. But the second thing that I mentioned that struck me is that those weren't big utility tractors. Those were compact cab tractors that most of the time you see going out to like estate owners. Sometimes you see those going out to municipalities, golf courses, things like that. But really those are kind of like, they're premium machines. They're super comfortable. They're super easy to drive. And I don't think you normally see those go into, at least I have not been observing those going into full-time farm commercial operations. And so these particular machines were both set up the same way. They did not have a loader. They had a, look like it was a blade that had been installed off to the right-hand side of each of those tractors. And I believe that those tractors were used probably for cleaning out some sort of interior building, some sort of stall where I'm sure dust collection, you know, inhaling for the operator was a factor which made the cabs important. Probably size was important, so that they could be maneuverable and easy to use. And then from the hours, what I do know is that those tractors worked at least 6 days a week, every week, all year long for their entire lives. If you do the math on the age of the tractors and the hours that they have on them, that's what it comes down to, is those tractors were used all the time. And so I guess my first point to what makes a tractor last for a long time or a lot of hours, that's going to be usage. The more often that you're able to use the tractor, the better it is for that tractor. Case in point, you have a tractor with 19,000 hours on it. Now, I don't know, you know, what they've had to repair or replace or rebuild. They might have had engine rebuilds inside of those hours. They might have had transmission rebuilds. They might not have. What we do know is that from a financial perspective, that company decided that they could keep those tractors for that long, and it made financial sense before they traded them in. So, you know, you can factor the rebuilds and things in there if they were there. That was the point where they said, okay, now it's making sense for us to move into new machines. But the thing there is, it was constant use. That's the way that they were able to get those tractors to get that kind of lifespan out of them. In our area, a lot of times what we see is people, they buy a tractor. Sometimes they buy a tractor just because they want to have a tractor. Maybe they only use it to fix their driveway once every 2 months or once every month, and it takes 2 hours. And then, you know, they move some mulch around. They end up putting 40 hours a year on the tractor. Well, at 10 years, that's only 400 hours. At 20 years, that's 800 hours. And at that point, for two reasons, age and lack of usage, the components on the machine are going to start to break down prematurely from an hour perspective. Hoses, points that require lubrication, different things are going to start to fail, and one is because of the age, but two is because equipment, cars are like this as well. They like to be operated. One of the worst things that you can do is to let it sit for a really long amount of time and then start running it. You are pretty much going to have to start fixing and repairing and replacing things if you do that. So the first point is get a tractor, and then you need to use it. Use it as much as you can. And that is going to extend the lifespan. Now, I will say, the more hours you put on it, the more it sort of depreciates in value. But if I'm a discerning tractor buyer and I'm looking for, you know, a used machine, past a certain point, you know, if I'm looking at something that's 15 or 20 years old, I'd probably rather see it have higher hours on it, you know, 2,000-3,000 hours, than have a 20-year-old tractor that only has 400, because I know that other tractor has been used, and obviously the condition of the machines is going to tell a story as well. If the tractor is just completely beat up, looks like it's never been maintained at all, you know, squeaky, dry, all that kind of stuff, then that, you know, that sort of tells that part of the story. But anyways, that's point one, is to use it. Point two is to pick the right size machine. And that's one of the reasons why I brought these two down here. These are both like 38 horsepower tractors. similar in weight. The 3039 is a little bit heavier, but they're similar in size, similar in weight. This one is heavier, and you're going to see why. I took some video that I'm going to put in here of the rear ends of the tractors and the front axles of the tractors, and you can see that the 3039 has a much beefier build to both the rear end and the front axle. And so if you consider that over the lifetime of 2, 3, 4, 5,000 hours, whatever might be put on these tractors, in a heavier application, the 3039 is going to hold up better. So that brings me back to buy the right machine for your application. The 3039 is a considerably more expensive machine than the 2038R, although both of these are expensive machines. The 3039 is a more expensive machine, and it's got more features. We're talking about the build, durability and things like that. The 3039R is beefier. So I would say on the 2038R, if your tasks lean towards more landscaping and light property maintenance and things like that, you know, keeping up with your driveway, moving some mulch around, this is probably a better fit for you. It is a little bit lighter duty, but it doesn't need to be as heavy duty. And as long as you're not pushing it to its maximum all the time, this is set up to hold up really well for its size. When you kind of crest over into, hey, I've got some legitimate, you know, farming that I'm doing, I'm taking care of animals, bigger projects, things like that. Well, the 3039R, if you're looking for a tractor that is in this size, this kind of maneuverability, this is going to be a more durable setup, and it's going to stand up better over time to heavier loads than the 2038R is. And it costs more money, but it's, what are you going to get out of it in the long run? I believe you're going to have a tractor that is a little bit more durable, which is why it costs more money. It also has some more features and things like that. But once again, these two tractors could be used for the same applications. You could probably get the 2038R to do close to, minus a few things, you know, the lift capacity isn't as great, but close to what the 3039R could do. But you're going to be putting a lot more strain on this tractor than you will be putting on this one. This one has a 3-range transmission. The loader arms are beefier. The loader cylinders are beefier. The whole thing, everything about this tractor is a little bit bigger and beefier. And while they can really kind of dabble in the same sandbox, if you will, this one is designed for heavier usage. And it costs more, right? That leads me to the next point, is don't abuse the machine that you have. Once again, if you start trying to put this into applications where maybe really this should be used, it's going to shorten the lifespan. I'm not saying that that's always the wrong decision. It might be the decision that you have to make based on your budget, based on other circumstances, what's available to you. If you can get this at a great price and you can't get this at a great price, maybe it makes sense, and maybe the shortened lifespan is sufficient for what you need it to do. But I will say, you know, hours and the overall condition of the machines, they sort of interpret the resale value. And so if you've got a 2038R that looks really, really heavily used, you know, it's gonna bring less value, even if it doesn't have tons and tons of hours on it. And I think maybe one of the prime examples that I've seen is there's a guy on YouTube that has a 2038R. He also, I think he now has some TYM tractors. Rock Hill Farms is his channel. Really enjoy watching it. And he took a 2038R and he put a cab on it. He put wheel weights on it. He loaded. He made the thing like 2,000 or 3,000 pounds heavier than it comes from the factory. And he used that tractor and he got a lot done with it. But I think, you know, after it was all said and done, he realized that he was really trying to, he would have been much better off with a little bit larger machine. He had a belly mower for this one, but because he had made it so heavy, it sort of rendered that useless, especially when it was wet. and it was so cumbersome to pull things around. I think he also had a backhoe for it. You can sort of go down this rabbit trail where you get attached to a machine or the idea of a machine that you could make it this thing that's perfect for you. And oftentimes maybe just going up a size could be a beneficial thing, to where you have more pulling and pushing power and lifting power. It's less strain on the machine, more comfortable to operate, easier to operate, and you're going to end up with better resale value because you're not pushing it to its limits. And to that point, he had this machine, or his machine, offered for sale, and he was in one of his videos, he was talking about, hey, I'm having a hard time finding a buyer for it. And he had it configured specially for his uses, and for a lot of people that just maybe is not the right configuration. So I'm not trying to say that he abused that machine. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I have seen people, buy a machine like this and they believe it's a bulldozer, and 400 or 500 hours later, it looks like it's got 2,000 hours on it because they've been using them really, really hard. So try not to do that. And then finally, you really need to understand the maintenance and storage of these machines to get the lifespan out of them. If you don't do the maintenance like you should be doing the maintenance, they're really just not going to last. They may surprise you as to how long they'll last, but you're definitely shortening the lifespan without keeping fresh fluids and at the very minimum, following the maintenance chart and things like that. So, make sure that you get an operator's manual. If you buy one used, I would go to the manufacturer, your closest dealer, and buy an operator's manual. John Deere keeps all of their manuals, PDF versions online. You can just download them. I think that's pretty handy. I wish that all the manufacturers would do that. But get very well acquainted with your maintenance schedule and follow it. And if your schedule, if you're not putting many hours on your tractor every year, and your schedule says, hey, I only need to change my engine oil every 200 hours. Well, if that's going to take you 10 years to accumulate that many hours, you need to change your oil more often than that. Some common sense mixed in with the maintenance is really what's needed to properly care for these machines. All right, the last point I was mentioning was storage. I guess the best place would be air conditioning, a shop, concrete floor, fully enclosed, insulated, doesn't have rodents running inside there. But if you don't have that, it's questionable whether it's better for it to stay outside or maybe in a 2 or 3 sided structure that's open. I was watching a video of a guy recently. He had a tractor, and for the first part of the ownership, he was storing that machine in a barn. And unfortunately, he had a bunch of mice that crawled up into the top of the cab where all the AC stuff, and there's a bunch of wiring up there, and they chewed through all the wiring. It was very expensive for him to have that replaced. He started storing the tractor outdoors after that, and he hasn't had a problem with that since. I guess if you have like barn cats, things like that can take care of the mice, I'd say putting it in a barn is a great idea, because it keeps the sun and the rain and the wind and stuff off of it, which ages the cosmetics and the materials, the seats, the hoods, the controls. They get really aged in the sun when they sit out for a really long time. So if you can cover it and also keep it away from rodents, I think that's the best thing. But if that's not an option, these will stay outdoors. But once again, you're going to be shortening the lifespan of some of the cosmetics, and perhaps some of the mechanical things. Linkages will rust. Some of the surface stuff is more likely to be affected by the weather. But anyways, I'm going to kind of tie this up with what do I think is maybe an appropriate lifespan for the average tractor. And I want to say that that's anywhere from probably 3,000 to 5,000 hours. Past that, they pretty much have to be in a commercial application in order to get some of those higher hour usages, is 6,000, 7,000, 12,000. Or they have to be around for a really long time. Some of these older John Deere, Case, Ford, New Holland tractors have 6,000 to 10,000 hours on them, and are still running strong. They've probably had clutches or engine rebuilds and things like that. But if you're willing to go through those steps, you can see a tractor with higher hours on it. But I would say, just generally speaking, 3,000 to 5,000 hours is probably a good lifespan for one of these machines if you take care of it really well and you use it regularly. And for a lot of people, if you buy the right machine up front, that could be like the majority of your lifetime. You know, if you get something that's too big or too small, you might end up having to trade to get into the right thing, or if you buy the wrong kind of transmission for your application. You know, those are the kind of things that I'd really work hard to try to steer people away from. Of course, I would love to make more sales to people that I've already been working with, but the best service that I could possibly offer is to keep people from buying the wrong machine for their application, because it's expensive to fix that. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope that kind of gives you some ideas about, you know, what's possible with these machines. Once again, if you want to see the pictures of those two machines that had 16 and 19,000 hours, you can email me, matt@jamisonstractor.com, and I'll shoot them over to you, and you can check them out and you know, give me your thoughts on them. But thanks for watching this video, and have a blessed day.